ABC Amber TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned. You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amber TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned. You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amber TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned. You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amber TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned.
People, ABC Amber TV, Draft. Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
Get trained as an IT professional from the comfort of your home. Dynamic Tech Academy gives you a unique opportunity through our 6-month program, during which you learn skills to transition to being a full-time IT professional. Over 80% of our students have no prior IT background, yet the vast majority of them land jobs a month after they start applying. Our ultimate goal is to reach 100% student placement, so we work with every student until he or she gets a job. Upon successful completion of the course, we will give you a resume, interview preps, one-on-one coaching from experienced instructors, and job placement assistance. Within this course, you get more than 300 hours of theories combined with real-world applications and practical skills you can apply on day one on your job. At the end of the program, our students can be certified as Red Hat Systems Administrator, AWS Cloud Engineer, AWS Security Specialist. Visit our website at www.dynamictechacademy.com to register.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the negotiation table. This is my patient Abidu, one of the members of Team Ambazonia, and I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for joining today. We have a very short program today, approximately an hour's program, and with me today we'll have two of our barristers, Barrister Tim Beseha and also Barrister Ghana. I want to welcome you today. As you see, I don't know if the flyers have been sent out yet, but today we are talking about the power of petitioning. And some of you joined the town hall meeting a week ago that was mainly focused on talking about 3 petitions that we have out there. So we will use this 1 hour to discuss the content of the petition and what part you have to play in making sure that we sign the petitions and make sure that our information is going out in the world, because it serves two purposes. It serves as a channel to inform those who know nothing about what is happening, and also it serves as a means for those who have the authority or the power to make some changes to take our petition and execute. So without further ado, I want to welcome Barrister Tim on the show today. And I don't know if Barrister Ghana has also joined. I need you guys to join in. Barrister Tim, welcome. Barrister Tim, take this moment to just greet everyone, and then we'll go straight to our discussions. Thank you for being on the negotiation table.
Okay, thank you, madam. Thank you. I think what people should not mistake us for, we're not the negotiators. No, we don't know who the negotiators are going to be come the time. We're just brainstorming on what we need as independent thinkers. We do this with the sole hope that it will help our eventual negotiators to capitalize on some of the ideas that we'll give out here. So let no one go out and give an impression that the IG has its negotiators headed by this team of people talking. No, that should never be the thing. We don't know who they are or when they will come up. But our role is just to educate the community on things that we think legally will be required of us. Maybe there are others, but we are looking at the legal aspect of some of the things that will be required. Thank you very much. I hope everybody gains something out of this.
Thank you so much, Barrister. Yes, it's a good thing to clarify that title, the negotiation table. It's just the name of the program, and there will be subtitles. For example, today's subtitle is the power of petitioning. So every other week when this program airs, there will be subtitle. If people are not comfortable with the name of the show, the negotiation table, the barrister has just already explained. It has nothing to do with the negotiation process itself. It's just a name for a show. As we wait for Barrister Ghana to join, I wanted to start this program by just defining what a petition is. Last week, we had the town hall meeting where we shared with Amazonians and well-wishers all over the diaspora. Let me first start by saying that special greetings to Homefront, that you're doing an awesome job in staying steadfast. We in the diaspora are doing our own part, although it's not as much as you are sacrificing, and we thank God for you. So I was saying that last Thursday, we had a town hall that was geared specially to talk about a petition. So what is a petition? A petition is defined as a formal written request, typically one signed by many people, appealing to authorities with respect to a particular cause. So we have 3 petitions out there. One is specifically geared towards making sure that the United Nations hear us. The other one is directed to the White House. And the third petition is a very global petition seeking for change worldwide. Barrister, while we wait for Barrister Ghana to join, I'm going to ask this question of you, and then hopefully when he joins, I can ask the same question of him. You and Barrister Ghana were instrumental in drafting the petition, the one that is titled A Journey to the White House. And I just want you to take a moment and talk to us, the people, why you think that petition was important and the content of the petition.
First, let me explain why it is important. It was and it is still important right now to do such things. This might help us in the United States, and it could as well help other Amazonians in different countries. See, our issue is a political problem, and it's a political problem dependent solely on the United Nations. We are not members of the United Nations, Ambazonia now, but the United Nations is a group of countries. Membership is countries. So you can address it to the White House like we are doing here to the United States government, or to the British government, or to any other government in the world, which is part of the United Nations, so that might help one of them pick up our case. In our instant case, for example, the one to the White House, see, we live in the United States, and the American system is quite different. It's a very popular, it's a system of popular democracy. The people can rise, they go to the streets, they will ring a bell to the politicians. They write petitions that will ring a bell to the rulers who are the politicians. But for it to do that, it has to have certain qualifications. We noticed, for example, that in the past 2, 3 years, starting from the Trump administration to the Biden administration, the American government, the US government, has taken special interest in our case. Trump did something, his administration did a lot. Biden is continuing with the job. So from time to time, we continue to remind them that the problem is still there. Why do we need to do this? The White House, in the terms of the United States, is not, it's an individual president there, but it's a complete federation of people, of congressmen, senators, House of Representatives, interest groups. So if we send a patient to the White House, that's just not enough. If you live in a particular state, every state in this country has congressmen or congresswomen, it has senators, it has all those things. So you can still pick that petition to your senator, your congressman, or your woman, wherever you are, and say, this is a petition we sent to the White House. That congressperson, a telephone call to the White House to support your petition can have wonderful effect. So though they do it all the time, because those of us who live here, like in other parts of the world, we don't only have the right to live here, we have the power of the vote. The vote that you have as an American Ambazonian is not weaker than the one of an American-born American. It's the same. We go to the polls, you pull one, you cast one vote, I cast the same vote. So this is important, so that all this concerted effort can put pressure, can make the US government, which is represented by the State Department, to take interest in our case. What we have lacked all the time up to this point, from 1961 to today, has been the lack of a sponsor nation who will sponsor our case. We are not members of the United Nations, yes. We are petitioning them. We are not members of the, for example, the World Court at The Hague. It's a court created under the United Nations. We cannot go there on our own because it is created for members of the United Nations. Someone must pick up the case there. And that has been our problem. And that is why, if I can recall, as far back in 2002, there was this Abuja case where these Southern Cameroonians, Scapo and others, sought to compel the Nigerian government to sponsor our case at the United Nations and other international organizations to which we don't belong. So this is part of the global search for sponsorship. But sponsorship is different. If somebody had to pick up our case there, we will go there. We might go there under the umbrella of the United States, of Japan, wherever they have taken it. We will tell the story ourselves. Or before they go there, we have to tell them what we want, what is our problem. And so these petitions, when they go out, they carry some information, which will give the man who is receiving the person, or the organization that is receiving the petition, an outline, an idea of what we really want. Let us not make the mistake of thinking that our matter, which was there with the United Nations, everybody has the same interest. No, the United States government, they are part of the United Nations, yes. But the people sitting in the presidency or in the State Department, they don't master those facts in their head. So that's, in essence, what it is all about. Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much, Barrister. I think we're still having difficulties connected with Barrister Ghana. So I'm going to still just continue with you. But before I do that, I want to read some few statistics about change.org, which is the platform that we use for our petition. It says on change.org, campaigns are started by people worldwide to mobilize supporters and work with decision makers to drive solutions. And statistically, more than 200 million people in countries worldwide have changed their communities through change.org petitions. And also, leading organizations also use change.org to mobilize supporters for their own, to advance their own causes. Change.org also is used by media. You have journalists that scour through stories and they find important stories and share with the communities. So this platform is used by a lot of people, decision makers, media people, and people that just want to effect change. And that is what we are using it for, to effect change in our own country. I want you to use this moment, Barrister, to just probably go about some of the highlights in the petition to the United Nations. I think it's a topic that people should understand what specifically we are asking the United Nations to do and why. I don't know if you can address that, and hopefully Barrister Ghana can join in time to also talk about that.
Well, as said earlier, that is our case is United Nations bound. In fact, there will no Ambazonia, there will no British Southern Cameroon without the United Nations. That's the beginning and the end of our problem. And so everything that we talk about, the majority of things that we talk about, as far as Ambazonia liberation is concerned, is documented somewhere at the United Nations. We're the grandchild of the United Nations. The United Nations, as it is a successor organization to the League of Nations that came after the First World War. And Ambazonia was partitioned in 1919 after the First World War, and were entrusted to the League of Nations as a mandated territory. When the League of Nations gave way 10 years after, in 1945, they were succeeded by their own son, their own grandson, whatever you call it, which we call today the United Nations. And so whatever thing was done in 1922 was transferred to the United Nations. When we talk of independence, it is given, we are asking the United Nations because it is the United Nations that assumes jurisdiction over us. We're no longer the German colony of 1884. The German colony of 1884, which was Cameroon and many other countries around the world, was based on different principles. They were based on the Industrial Revolution. The colonies like Cameroon, Nigeria, any other one at that time, was, in fact, the European exploration of Africa and the rest of the world was economic, to get raw materials for the industries and to get labor. But when the United Nations came in, they took over and called it mandated territories or trust territories. Their goal was different. You're not going to find an industry somewhere in Japan, in America, in England, called the United Nations industry making beer or making milk or things like that now. Their own goal became a goal of liberation, free everybody to walk away, do their own things the way they did. So all these colonies that have been created in terms of Africa in 1884 had to go. Let everybody assume self-responsibility by ruling itself, doing their own thing the way they do. And that's where we came in. So the United Nations rule then and today is to get people free to do their own things their own way they want. That's why it is very important. In the United Nations charter, there's a clause which is called self-determination. It is there, it is inscribed there permanently. There's no time limit for it. You have the right to self-determination if you meet the requirements of a group of people entitled to it. It is imprescriptible. You cannot say it has ended after 10 years. No. Even the one that was not bound, for example, Southern Sudan, there was nothing like Southern Sudan state. When they manifested their zeal to do their own matter, they did it. So that's why we address this into United Nations. And in our own case, when we write the United Nations, we must be sure of what we are putting there, the facts we are giving to support our case. They're all documented there, but we must give them the correct facts and tell them what we want in a particular resolution. In fact, the facts are reflected by way of resolutions. If you pick a resolution of the United Nations General Assembly of Security Council, they say so many things. What is it that you want in a particular resolution? So it must be precise so that your reader will know what you are arguing for or what you are arguing against. Those are the principles that guide us. And it is good for all our people to know, because there are people who are not even in this interim government who are sending petitions left and right to United Nations. They all do it in good faith. But if you don't know what you are doing, the petition might probably not receive any reasonable reaction. And I say this as a fact. I remember since this thing started in 2016, I can count not less than 5 to 10 petitions sent by different Amazonian groups, individuals, to the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, Criminal Court, for intervention. Everybody wrote it in good faith, but sometimes they're not even replied to because they did not meet the requirements of what they wanted there. So that's all what it is about.
Thank you, Barrister. We had Barrister Ghana join them momentarily. I think he must be having technical difficulties. I think he's out. You just mentioned about, yes, he was there a minute ago, and I was going to ask him the same question because he was very instrumental in crafting the petition that we have for the United Nations. But you just said something that I want to just comment on briefly, that since this our struggle for independence started, there have been quite a few petitions by individuals or groups. And I was going to even mention that. And that is, in fact, the case that we've seen at least 5-6 petitions, some of them focusing on genocide, some of them focusing on the legality of our case with the United Nations, some of them directed to the White House to end the genocide and help Amazonia. And the thing that I've noticed with all these petitions is that the number of signatures, for some reason, do not get beyond a certain number. We know that there are so many Amazonian Southern Cameroonians out there, and the question is, why are they not signing these petitions when they know that the outcome that could result from such petitions is something that will benefit everyone? Even La Republic will benefit from the outcome because there will be a solution to the problem one way or the other instead of what we're having right now. So I wanted to bring this just to highlight that petitions are very, very important. Barrister, let's say that we are able to get 100,000 signatures. That is really a lofty goal because, as I said, most of the petitions that we've had in the past, I think the maximum I've seen is 23,000 signatures, and that took quite a long period of time. Maybe it was over a year. We are trying to get a lot of signatures before the United Nations General Assembly coming up September 22nd or so. Let's say by some miracle, we are able to get these 100,000 signatures. Do you have any suggestion as to how we get this to the United Nations? Do we have to partner with somebody? What are your suggestions, Barrister?
Before I give my suggestion, let me clarify one thing. If we have a petition and people are not signing, it is not because they don't want to sign. I can state categorically that the bulk of us, Ambazonians, who are not on social media platforms. Even when we are there, we don't know what to do. I don't know how many of us have Facebook pages. We don't have. If you are already used to Facebook or to Twitter, and you go there and see a tweet you made, like a joke. Let me say they killed woman, say, oh, they killed a woman for sex. You just wrote that on your Facebook. Go back there and see how many people have retweeted that thing from Japan, from Germany, from China, from everywhere in the world. So you don't know the influence that your tweet, they killed a woman for sex, can go. We're in a different world. Most of us, or many of us who came here in the 1990s, we still believe in the power of writing a petition, going to the post office, mailing it to whoever we want, or taking the phone and calling them. Yeah, that was useful then. It is not as useful as this social media communication now. So let us learn to be on social media. If you go on social media, you find Guterres, the secretary of the UN. He's there with his Facebook, with his Twitter account, talking to the world. Something is happening, like you see the war on Ukraine. They are talking, and nothing prevents you. There's nothing there to say, well, this is just written by patients. She's just a house cleaner somewhere. It doesn't got that identification. It simply carries your signature, and that's all. So we're not going there. We're not used to it. We're still used to the traditional way of communication, which is almost outdated. Those of us in the United States who are around the civilized world should now have realized that if today, in fact, as late as just last year, the United Nations was holding its conferences, its international conferences on Zoom. You did not need to pay an air ticket from Douala to Washington, D.C. or to New York to do it. So let us learn to use these social media tools. We don't know how to use them. It took me some time to go there. I'm going to tweet. Personally, it took me time. So it's just because we don't know. So let us hope that this education will help. I'm sure even the most reluctant Ambazonia would like to see this problem solved. The majority of us have suffered the consequence of this thing one way or the other. You've lost a sister, a brother. They have burnt your cousin's house. They have at least threatened to arrest one. So it is in your interest to see the thing end. Let us not say how it ends, but we want it to end. And one of the ways to make it end is to communicate this way. Those of us who are here, I don't know how many times I went out demonstrating on behalf of Palestine. I don't know how many people go out demonstrating on behalf of Israel, a country that you will never go to in your lifetime. So, but if there's a New York demonstration and 30,000 people appear there, those 30,000 people are not Jews. They are not Palestinians. But the crowd goes.
Yeah.
And people will report, oh, 30,000 people came here to demonstrate to kill somebody because they killed someone in Gaza. So let us try to make the tools that we have, we make the best use of them. That will help us. Yes, we are just listening to the White House. It is not us doing it. The White House is already aware of it. They have taken steps, a lot of steps. All these things that they have done, they passed resolution in Congress, they have taken steps. But we'll continue to do it to impress on them that, look, in spite of what you have done, the suffering is still going on. The problem is still unsolved. So let us not be tired. Let us just learn to use the tools that we have. Again, when we use those tools, nobody's going to ask you whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a farmer, whether you're a house cleaner. They just, the message goes through. Don't say, no, I'm not a lawyer. Don't say, no, I'm not a politician. No. When you go to your senator's office or to your congressperson's office, The first question they ask you is not whether you are a lawyer. They ask you if you are an American citizen. Do you vote? Yes.
Yes.
Because the vote of patience is as important as the vote of Trump. It's as important as the vote of
Absolutely.
Biden. So let us use these tools. Those of us in the United States, and I think it is all over the Western world. Again, this UN thing. Yes, we have some 5 permanent members, but 190 something countries. There's no big man there. A country with just 200,000 people can still carry our case there. But we need these powerful ones to say, well, we know about that case, but you brought it, so they sponsor it. Because every country there has its own allies. We here depend so much on the United States. If the United States were to pick up our case, we're sure that we'll have at least 20, 30 countries to fall behind as the allies of the United States or Great Britain or whichever country. So let us learn to use the tools that we have. I think Barrister Ghana is in. I think he can
Yes,
take over.
thank you. Thank you, Barrister. Thank you. Barrister Ghana, thank you for joining us. I know you had some technical difficulties. I'll give you a moment to greet the people, and then let me just ask you the question. After you greet the people, you can just answer the question. You were very instrumental in drafting this petition to the United Nations, and you covered some very, very detailed information that we think you can break down for the people to understand the significance or the relevance. So I'll give you this opportunity to first greet our Amazonians viewers worldwide and at home front, and also tell them why you thought the resolutions that you included are important. Thank you and welcome to the negotiation table.
Yeah, thank you very much, Doctor, for inviting me. My apologies first that I am on the road, and so both my connectivity setting and instruments are not ideal. But when we're in a struggle, we don't panic, we pivot and keep things moving. Yeah, I was also honored for the team to ask me to help draft or edit the resolution so that we can fine tune it and make it as sharp as it can be. But before I do that, before I speak about the resolution, let me just greet our audience. Let me greet Ambazonians all across the world in Ambazonia on the home front, Ambazonians in ground one, Ambazonians in the entire diaspora. A lot of us are situated or located in places where we do not ideally choose, or we haven't ideally chosen to be in those places, but circumstances have allowed or pushed us to be there. So I offer my greetings to all Ambazonians, and I say, hold your heart, hold your head high, stiffen your shoulders, maintain your courage. The train of our journey to sovereignty started in 1919, as Barry Sanso has said. You know, this is not a new claim of ours to independence. We are a product of the end of the First World War, the Treaty of Versailles. France cannot escape from the Treaty of Versailles, but because if France were to escape from the Treaty of Versailles, then we would also be asking France to hand over Alsace-Lorraine back to Germany, because it was through the Treaty of Versailles that France acquired title to Alsace-Lorraine, which is part of France. So, so those international treaties are very powerful. Again, Ambazonians, hold your head high, stiffen your shoulder, keep fighting. Because when you look at these UN resolutions, which we drafted as Barry Sanso so appropriately stated, we have to knock on all doors and muzzle every effort of ours to seize our independence, to enforce our independence, to regain our sovereignty. Because there are only two options here. There are only two options here. The first option is slavery under French Cameroon, and the second option is freedom. There's a great thinker who once said, I would rather live one day as a lion than 1,000 days as a sheep. We are lions and not sheep, and we have to regain our sovereignty. And consistent with those, with the petition that we drafted, it was sort of a legal summary of our case, and that case included examples of other cases that were in the same boat. The same situation with Namibia, when South Africa was claiming Namibia as part of hers, a bold-faced lie and a thief and a high-known thievery, just like France is trying to do. And the status of Namibia, or then before it became Namibia, it was called Southwest Africa. You know, there are a lot of ways where these high-known thieves who try to steal territories always try to rename them and reconfigure them and rebrand them, thinking that their thievery is going to be hidden under that sort of branding. For example, rebranding the Southern Cameroons to West Cameroon, and then now to Northwest and Southwest, and now to the provinces, and now to the regions. And the same thing with Namibia, branding it to Southwest Africa, thinking it was going to take away the authentic identity of that nation, that the legal authority, the legal status of Namibia came from the Treaty of Versailles. Just like as Barrington said, the legal status of the Southern Cameroons comes from the Treaty of Versailles that created two Trust B territories, French Cameroon and Ambazonia, aka the Southern Cameroons. Now, if French Cameroon wants to do whatever it desires to so do with its own sovereignty, they can do that. If French Cameroon wants to gift France with its sovereignty, that is their business. If French Cameroon wants to remain slaves to France, that is their business. But when it comes to Ambazonia, we Ambazonians are going to fight to the last man to regain our sovereignty, which was stolen by France using French Cameroon as a proxy. So let's be very clear. And in that draft, I also state other resolutions. For example, UN Resolution 1608, where right there in the UN General Assembly on April 21st, 1961, the independence of the Southern Cameroons was voted. Now, it was voted suggesting that we could become independent through joining French Cameroon, but based on a treaty of union, based on the Guardian, England, sitting together with French Cameroon and the Southern Cameroons to work out a treaty of union. That is why in the United Nations, there is no La République du Cameroun that includes the Southern Cameroon. That is why during French Cameroon's 50th anniversary, Ali Treki from the United Nations visited Etude in Yaoundé and handed them two maps, the map of French Cameroon and the map of the Southern Cameroons. So right there in Resolution 1608, that gave a precondition for us to join. That precondition has never been met because France and French Cameroon were arrogant enough to think that they could annex us in Fumban. As their own diplomat, Pierre Mesmer, who was there in Fumban, stated in his own book afterwards, titled Le Blanc Sans Vent, page 135, he says, sauf en apparence, un annexation, which means, but for in appearance, it was an annexation. So what do you do when there's an annexation? You undo it. What do you do when colonialism that has been declared as a crime by the United Nations, as a crime against humanity? When do you what do you do when a people have been colonized? You decolonize them. So our problem is a problem of failed decolonization, and our territory needs to be properly decolonized. That is why we are fighting. And right besides UN Resolution 1608 is UN Resolution 1514 that states, and it came out December 15, 1960, that states grant independence to all territories and countries that were being colonized. At the time that resolution came out of the United Nations, the Southern Cameroons was being colonized. Both the Southern Cameroons and French, it was a Trust B territory under England. So right there, even if you push 1608 aside, 1514 would have given us outright independence. But Britain and France were back there in the decolonization committee, scheming to see how they can take away our independence. If Britain and France had been lawful, 1608 would never have happened, because 1608 came after 1514 and 1541. And Barrister Mbesa can attest that when you have a higher law in a territory, when you have a higher law in a country, it nullifies a lower law. 1608 is a lower law to 1514 and 1541. So 1608 should never have occurred. So we are a people under bondage. For example, Mape, you understand that here in the United States, when you have a state rule on a case, it becomes law in that case. But when it goes up to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court rules one way or another, that case becomes the law of the land. For example, Brown v. Bott. For example, Roe v. Wade, that is in so much contention. When the Supreme Court rules, it becomes the law of the land. The UN General Assembly is the supreme arbiter of nations. 1541, 1514, paragraph 5 states clearly hand independence to all countries that were territories or that were being colonized. So we are a people under bondage. And that is why the great powers know that this is not a civil matter within French Cameroon. This is a matter between two independent entities in international law. If you read U.S. Resolution 1684, paragraph 4, it implicitly and outrightly states that this is a problem between two independent parties that needs to be resolved on the negotiation table. So we've been doing our work in the back, pushing the United States Senate, the United States Congress, and other members of the diplomatic committee. I know you want to interrupt me, but we need to continue with some of these instruments we are doing. For example, writing these petitions through change.org. And thanks to everybody out there who is making efforts to push these petitions so that we can exhaust whatever means we have to regain our independence and free our people. Thanks a lot, Mape, for giving me that latitude.
Thank you so much, Barrister Ghana. I was able to locate some petitions that we had before. We spoke about it just before you joined, that we've seen since our struggle started. There was a petition that was on change.org, and that petition was titled, "Stand with Never Again Global Campaigns to Say No to Genocide in the Southern Cameroons." And that petition was several years ago. Let's see what date it was published. 4 years ago. 4 years ago, that's when that petition was published. And to date, it has 11,394 signatories. There was another petition also on change.org that was titled, "Call on the UN to decolonize the UN Trust Territory of the Southern Cameroons." And that petition was from also, that was 6 years ago, as a matter of fact, 6 years ago, that petition. And that petition had only 1,700 and something signatures. And there are a couple more that I don't want to take too much time. The reason I'm bringing this up is that petitions do two things. They bring awareness. to our plight, because there are people that are signing these petitions that have no idea that there's a problem happening in Southern Cameroons. I speak personally. When I shared it to my network of Americans, the immediate reaction was, "Oh no, I didn't know that was happening." So people should take this seriously. And I know we're going to be ending the show any moment now. We had only just an hour. We started late because we were supposed to end at 9 our time. But I'm going to make a couple of comments, and I'm going to give both of you a minute or two to give your closing remarks. What is important is that people to realize that you need to share this petition with everyone in your network. Share it with members of your churches. Share it with everyone at your job site. Share it with your schools. If you're a university student, or your children are going to school, share it with their parents or the people that belong to PTA organizations. Share it with everyone, basically, because again, it's doing two things. It's informing people about Southern Cameroons and Ambazonia, where people that had no idea what was going on. And you never know where this will end. You never know. There may be somebody there right there, maybe a celebrity or a businessman, who could just see this and say, why are people being killed for no reason? But you mentioned something that that I thought about when you're describing our legal rights. When people ask the question, what is the root cause of our problem? I remember talking to some people that are not Southern Cameroonians. They will always say that that are not Amazonians. They will say that the root cause is because of marginalization and maltreatment, or not giving opportunities to Southern Cameroons. So I'm sure I want you both to just address that so people understand the difference between the root cause that is based on our history, and not what is happening on the people being marginalized. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to talk about that, and then your closing statements, please. Barrister Mesa, you can go first.
Thank you. I think the most important thing is for people to understand what is the problem. And I've always said this. It looks to me, I'm very convinced, the American administration, they understand our problem more than ourselves. Because what the State Department been saying, they have only issued one statement: go without preconditions to the table and address the root causes of the problem. They know these things. What are the root causes of the problem? They are what Mr. Ghana I just told you. Decolonization, lack of any consent for these people coming to invade our own territory. They are invaders in the naked sense of it. They are invaders. They don't deny that. The French know that. In fact, this story, I don't know, we'll have such a short time. Otherwise, it will take us such a long time. So this should give us, when we write petitions, it will be sure what we title our petition, because the title can encourage someone to read what you're writing. And then what we want. This must feature clearly and succinctly enough for anybody who looks at it at face value to imagine what it is about. There are so many Americans, millions, who don't even know that there are still colonies in the world. So if we put decolonization, they wonder, someone is being colonized in 2022 and things like that. So there's so much at stake. We have suffered so much that everybody tells his or her own story from the angle from where he came. If you ask the children, the family of Wazizi, what's the problem? He said, no, they killed my brother. They just took this man from Bunduma and then he died. But why did they take him? This guy, the poor woman or the child or whoever, might not tell you that story. But when we have to put down something, we should put down something that tells the story. It is a complicated but straightforward story. It is nothing short of decolonization. Professor Ghana has mentioned two important resolutions. Before we go to expatiate on that, a resolution of the United Nations is a law. You don't pick and choose. If they pass a resolution of 4 paragraphs, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you cannot take and implement paragraph 2 and leave paragraph 1. You take all whole and implement both, or nothing. If you have a problem, you go back to the United Nations for amendment. So they cannot tell all that off. I mean, this is universal. They didn't go to school different from us who have learned the same law that they have learned. So the let me go back to resolution 1514, which was passed on the was it 30th of December 1960, should have ended the whole idea of a plebiscite. Because what did he say? He said every colony should be given independence, notwithstanding their size of population, their education, whatever thing, they're entitled to independence. What was the plebiscite based on? It was based on the presumption that we didn't have money to sustain ourselves. If the very United Nations said, give them independence, even if they are the poorest people in the world, that would have ended that thing. That was the end of it. But nonetheless, they still went ahead and purported to hold a referendum, a plebiscite. But before that, even the next day again, the very next day, the very United Nations said, look, but if people must join, this is just for 1541 now, if they must join, let them have their independence first, then decide who they want to join with. They did not even, it's not that they did not even apply this into us, they did not even mention these two resolutions in the preamble of 1608. They simply threw it away. That's how Zanzibar joined with Tanganyika and became Tanzania. They were independent first, both countries, and decided to join. That's how Senegal joined with Gambia and became Senegambia for a while. But, so they did not just implement their own rules. That's why the United Nations, they were the ones passing this resolution, were not there. They are not even enforcing their own their own laws of decolonization. 1946 said, take these people and minister them for the sole purpose of getting independence. Article 76B of the Charter. They didn't say independent by joining. There was no such thing called independent by joining anywhere. It is not there even till today. So that's why, in my own words, I've described it as an invention by the British. And it never applied anywhere else except in southern Cameroon and Togo and British Togo land. There's no other country in the world that had independent by joining. So when we put down these things, if we're not lawyers, those people who pick them up as lawyers will fine-tune the thing to the language. We will go to the conference table, negotiation table. The children, the wife, the family of Wazizi will not be there. There will be lawyers there who will say, yeah, you petition for the death of your brother or your wife or your husband. But this is the reason. They will put these prints down there. I personally, as an individual, I feel that the matter is long since over. And the French know this. The Yaoundé people know this story. They know this thing better than we do. They were there. They were members of the United Nations. They voted against 1608. They were asking whether they want to join us with them. And the Republic said, no, I don't want to join with these Anglophones, call it like that. That should also have ended the matter right there. You're a woman. If you decide to marry me, I will went before the altar of Jesus Christ. And they say, okay, do you want to marry this man? You say, no, I'm not marrying that man. That's the end of the marriage.
Exactly.
The pastor, the pope, the bishop, whoever is sitting that thing will end that thing there. He's not going to proceed. So once the Republic voted no to 1608, the idea of 1608 would have just died because they had refused the marriage. Again, I've looked at it with legal eyes. I've not seen anywhere in the charter where the United Nations General Assembly had the legal right to force an unwilling party to a union that they did not want. It is not there. Let France, let anybody in the world prove me wrong by saying this is a provision under the charter where they could compel the Republic for voting no to be united to British Southern Cameroon. And again, let me end it here. They could not do it. There is no such text. That should have ended the matter. I know what I was trying to say. So that is the legal foundation. We're on the right path. Again, since this thing is a public forum, those of us writing petitions, even individual petitions to your senators, to your congressmen, wherever in the world, have these facts planted in your head. And I think Barasagana is the same like me. Wake me up at midnight if you have any difficulty. I will clean my eyes and give you some advice.
Thank you so much, Barrister. All right, we're running out of time, so maybe another 1 minute or two, then we'll close. But Barrister Ghana, your closing comment, and then we'll be calling it off. I think the negotiation table will have you both on another day to really take a couple of hours to really let people understand the details of what happened to our beautiful Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia in terms of the legalities. So let me have you just use a minute or so because we have to close any moment now. Barrister Ghana.
Yeah, I'm going to close with two things. First of all, I'm going to close with these petitions following up on what Barrister Mbesa has said. This was wrong from the beginning, and the problem is that this thievery that was being orchestrated by both Britain and England, English parliamentarians were protesting what England was doing right in the British Parliament. Lord Thompson spoke loudly. That is clearly choreographed of him saying, the Southern Cameroon is not Britain's, it's the UN's. And for Britain to try to deal away the Southern Cameroon is self-dealing, which is illegal in any form of law, civil or international law. The United States representative to the UN, Congressman Zabloki, decried it. He said it was wrong. So the wrongdoing that was being perpetrated on the Southern Cameroons had evidence that it was not right, and we've grown up with this understanding that Foncha and Muna and all our leaders, we've grown up with this understanding that Foncha and Muna they colluded to sell us out. It's documented. Foncha was writing to the UN that they did not want us to join. They wanted us to get our independence first before joining. That is why Foncha did not sign any document in Fumba. That is why the Southern Cameroon's parliament did not have any treaty to ratify. So the crime that was perpetrated on the Southern Cameroons has evidence scattered all over. And that is why our right to reclaim our independence with the barrel of the gun is so essential. That is why the draft that is going on. Let's not relent on the draft, because it's the draft and our heroic fighters on the ground who have risen to defend our people, to defend our sovereignty, to defend our independence. It is that draft and that action on the ground that is giving us that leverage to ensure, to guarantee that we are gonna arrive in Boya. So the draft that is currently ongoing under the interim government, under the leadership of Dr. Samuel Sako, I call on all of you Ambazonians to not relent, to not listen to any lies, to not listen to any distractions, to deep down in your wallet and donate whenever there's a county that is drafting, because the whole world is drafting for Ukraine. France is drafting for Ukraine. Germany, Switzerland, Japan, the United States, England, all of them are drafted for Ukraine because it's an independent entity in international law that is facing a brutal invader. You, if nobody else is drafting for the Southern Cameroons, we Southern Cameroonians are the ones who we've been waiting for. We need to dip into our pockets and draft generously so that our journey to Boya can continue full steam. So thank you very much, Dr. Abiedu, for having me on this show. And thanks also to our very seasoned Barrister Mbesa, for being so articulate and for being so knowledgeable of the facts. And one last thank you to the heroic fighters who are putting their lives on the line on the home front. We owe you a debt of gratitude that Ambazonia will hold itself accountable to you and to your children and your grandchildren. Keep the fight, keep the draft, keep the spirits high. Freedom is ours, and freedom shall, without doubt, be attained. Eritrea did it, Southern Sudan did it, East Timor did it, Bosnia did it, Croatia did it, Namibia did it. Ambazonia, by all means necessary, shall do it. Thank you, Dr. Abiedu.
Oh, wow. That is such a good note to end the program with. So in remembering that tomorrow we are drafting for LBLM. As Barrister Ghana has said forcefully, every Ambazonian, every Southern Cameroonians, please make sure that you come out tomorrow and draft for LBLM. Let's stand in solidarity with the people of LBLM, showing that we are all one powerful nation called Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. And I want to thank everybody for joining today to listen to us. The negotiation table, a platform of Team Ambazonia, is a show that will be airing every other Friday. And every now and then you will see different guests on the show. And I want to thank our technicians behind that have made this possible. So come one, come all. Tomorrow is LBLM Day. Thank you so much. And thank you, barristers, for being with me here today. Have a great day.
The number one most important thing for every Ambazonian to do right now is to draft. Draft and draft and draft. People of Ambazonia, draft. The number one most important thing for every Ambazonian to do right now is to draft. Draft and draft and draft. People of Ambazonia, draft. The number one most important thing for every Ambazonian to do right now is to draft. Draft and draft and draft. People of Ambazonia, draft. The number one most important thing for every Ambazonian to do right now is to draft. Draft and draft and draft. People of Ambazonia, draft. The number one most important thing